Speaking of AI, are you excited about it, or you are not intimidated but cautious about usage and what it brings to learning process?
It depends on the day. Everything seems to be changing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So, some days I'm very excited about it. I see it as a way of saving time, of being able to know more, of being able to have an assistant that can help you with all sorts of things. And I think classroom teachers in general, for example, have moved away from it. Their biggest fear was like, oh, the students are using this to cheat, uh, to being aware of, actually, I can use this to plan, and I can use this to mark, and I can use this to save me time. So a lot of busy teachers are starting to embrace
Yeah.
AI just as much or more than the students. What I fear about, and I know it is happening in some circumstances, I hope it's not happening in too many, but a teacher will plan an assessment, an assignment. They will write a rubric using AI. They will get everything ready for the students. They'll give it to the students without really thinking about it. It's just saved them a lot of time.
Yeah.
They've dashed it off in a minute. The students will use AI to answer it without really looking at the question. They'll just put it into ChatGPT and get an answer. They'll hand it into the teachers. The teacher will hand their answers into the large language model as well and get the marks and give it back to the students. So you then have a whole process where no human being has been involved in the learning or teaching process. And I think that's the big danger. So I think as teachers, our big responsibility now has to be not to ignore this, because the students aren't going to ignore it. And from what I can understand from people I know, as soon as you get to the world of work, this is something that you'll end up you're using. So we need to embrace it. We need to understand how it's changing and how it can be used. I think the biggest role a teacher has when it comes to using this is understand that students are going to use it. How can you uh, but how you understanding that, how can you build in your assessment to be able to assess learning, and rather than just to go through the motions and assess what an output of an LLM is? You want the students to still learn. You want them to be critical. So this idea of critical literacy has become one of the most important things in the curriculum now, I think. So those are some of my fears or hopes, but I do think there are all sorts of ethical problems. There are bias problems when it comes to AI that need to be addressed. And I think and hope that those will be addressed. There's the cost on the climate that using these machines have. I'm hoping that all of this has been raised and has been looked at and will be dealt with in the future. And maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I do think it isn't something you can't ignore, but you do have to think very responsibly as a teacher or as a person about how you use AI and what you use it for, and not just to be frivolous and rattle off hundreds and hundreds of images, for example, that you're never going to use. So you do have to think carefully and responsibly about using it. And ultimately, so long as artificial general intelligence doesn't appear, we'll be okay. I don't think it will replace humans, but if AGI does appear, then I think language teachers will have the last thing, they have to worry, but so will everybody worry, because the machines won't need us.
Tutor and Tech. Project about teaching languages, learning, technology, and how they co-evolve together.